What could be better than fresh French bread with pure Irish butter on it? Today I'm going to show you step by step how to make these baguettes at home. I'm putting 600 grams of water into the bowl. And then we're going to float some Poolish right on top of it. We can see that the Poolish is floating, so it's ready to go. We'll just scrape the rest of it into there and stir to dissolve. Once the Poolish begins to dissolve into the water, we'll add all of the flour. Now, all of the flour is 1 kilogram of flour, or 1,000 grams, less the amount of flour that's in the Poolish, which is 150 grams. That gives you 850 grams. We're going to add about 10 grams or a scant tablespoon of active dry yeast. Now we're going to stir to hydrate all of the ingredients. A 20-minute rest has hydrated the gluten so that it's ready to be developed. We're going to do that by subsequently folding the dough onto itself, creating lots of sheets of gluten with tiny little pockets of active yeast that are creating all that nice gas to fill like a balloon. But before we do that, we need to add the salt. You need about 2% salt to make a really nice, tasty bread. "30 minutes have elapsed and the dough is ready to make another set of turns. There's one more little trick. It's sometimes confusing to keep track of the turns, so I use my little baking beads. We've already done 2 turns, so we'll put 2 baking beads on there. See you in a half hour. So I'm just gonna do a quick window pane test just to show everybody how the gluten is developing, and it's developing beautifully. We've only done 2 of our turns, and we have 4 more to go. This is going to work very well. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. And now it's time for the 4th turn. You can see that the yeast is really starting to do its work and inflate this dough. We'll Okay, we've done the 4 turns now, and we're doing the 5th one. It's looking beautiful. It's getting lots of volume. After the 5th turn, the dough is not even that sticky anymore. It's very manageable. Okay, time to do the last set of turns. After we do this turn, we're going to let this rest for 20 minutes, and then we'll do pre-shaping and then finally shaping. The dough's been turned 6 times now, and we're ready for pre-shaping. So now we're going to portion out the dough into 300-gram pieces. This recipe makes 6 baguettes, but we can only bake 3 at a time, so I'm going to take what's left of the dough, roll it up, and put it in a plastic container, and put it in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. Now we're going to pre-shape the dough. That basically means to get it into almost the shape that it's going to be. What we're trying to achieve is creating a skin, a very, very thin skin that covers the dough. That skin is going to become the crust. So this is how we're going to do it. Take the dough, and on a very lightly floured surface, we're going to gently stretch this into the shape of a rectangle. You can let gravity work a little bit. I'm being very gentle, not to force any of the gas that has been trapped inside the dough. I'm really trying to keep as much of that as possible. So, roughly the shape of a rectangle, we'll fold it over itself, and then over itself one more time, sealing as we go. Now, you can already see the skin. Now that the dough's pre-shaped, we will let it rest for another 15 minutes with a cloth over the top of it. The baguettes have been resting for about 15 minutes, and it's time to finish the shaping. You can see that the dough has relaxed quite a bit. So we'll take one of the dough, not to stretch it out too much, just to give it a little length. And remember, be gentle, be gentle. Now we're going to actually create the baguette. It's important not to have too much flour on the table, because that would make a spiral of white flour inside the baguette. So we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is just pick it up, roll it over, and I'm using my fingers to press down and away without tearing the dough. Just tension this up and seal it. A little extra flour. So at this point, a little extra flour is okay. Just loosen it up gently. So we have a very nice elongated piece of dough with a beautiful seam on top. We need to taper the ends, and we do that by holding our hands at 45 degrees and simply rolling it. That is very nice. So I'm going to put this over here for now. We'll shape the other baguettes, and then we're going to let them prove in a cloth. So the cloth or baker's couche needs to have plenty of flour on it to keep the baguettes from sticking to it. If you don't have a proper baker's couche, you can always just get a piece of linen or just use some kitchen towels. We're going to make pleats in the baker's couche just tall enough to keep the dough from touching each other. You definitely do not want them to touch each other while they're proofing. And then we'll just fold it over. This is going to help keep its shape and also evaporate just a little bit of moisture off of the surface. That'll make it easy to score. So we'll come back in about a half an hour and check to see if they're ready to bake. The baguettes have been proofing for about a half an hour and they should be ready. So what we have to do is transfer them from the cloth to an appropriate pan. Now I have this pan specifically designed for baguettes, but you can use any baking sheet, it doesn't matter. Let's see how they look and see if they're ready to go. So what are we noticing? First of all, they were wrinkly when we first put them in the couche, but now all the wrinkles are gone. They look perfectly uniform. The seam has evened up with the rest of the dough, and when I press on it, it bounces back. These are ready. So we've transferred the baguettes to the pan, and now they're ready to be scored. We're using a holder for a razor blade because razor blades are extremely sharp and they are perfect for making beautiful little slashes. But what are the slashes for? Aside from decoration, these slashes will allow the baguettes to expand in the oven, and the expansion in the oven is called oven spring. Before I slash these baguettes, I wanted to tell you about steam in the oven. Steam is the thing that creates that magnificent crust, but it's very interesting on how it does that. It gelatinizes the outside of the dough while the steam is in the oven. Then in the second half of baking, we'll remove the steam and let that crisp up, and it makes the most perfect crust. So we have to slash this. This is a blade, a lame, and we're going to use it in very quick motions. Now, where are we going to slash? I'm sure people have seen 45-degree angle slashes or 90-degree angle slashes. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a very shallow angle, and we also want to hold the blade at an angle so that we get under this piece of crust just a little bit. So what I did, if you can imagine a 1-inch, two lines 1 inch apart on the top of this baguette, I then slashed from one line to the other. Then I moved up to that line again and included some of that. So let's do it again. Now, to create the steam in the oven, I have a pizza stone on the bottom shelf, and on top of that I have a 9x13 pan with a 2-inch lip, and inside there I have all of my baking beads, just to give us a little bit more thermal mass and give this a really good steam right from the beginning. Additionally, I have 3 cups of water on the stove boiling, so we're going to go right into the oven with the boiling water.